Modern Warfare was revealed yesterday to the masses, and it seems to already be off to a great start, or comparatively to recent years in their reveals at least. With the trailer sitting atop the YouTube trending 24 plus hours later, the initial reception seems to be pretty good, and people are looking forward to the return to form in a sense of the Call of Duty brand. But one question that I've seen and wanted to provide some clarity on is, how does it all fit? How does Modern Warfare fit in the franchise or even the Modern Warfare universe? Or does it even at all? So today we're going to be looking to examine what crossover there may be and fully explain any connections there may or may not be to the original Modern Warfare universe that we've grown akin to in the last decade of the franchise. We're of course going to be continuing Modern Warfare coverage here in the next couple of days, and then of course we roll right over into Days of Summer for Black Ops 4 here next week. So if you guys are interested in any of that kind of stuff, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button to stay up to date with all of that. And also, as a result of this being a more pressing thing I wanted to explain, the AMA style video is probably going to be pushed back a little bit until tomorrow. So if you guys have any more questions you want to get in last second, feel free to, and I'll answer what I can. But that said, firstly, let's discuss where the confusion may come into play. Naturally, the idea of a second game titled Modern Warfare could probably throw some people for a trip, and the whole idea of searches for it is something a lot of people are also interested and curious about how that'll work out. From an SEO standpoint, I even saw some uptick in traffic to older Modern Warfare Remastered videos of mine, so you can naturally see how it would be confusing to some. Additionally, the returning face of Captain Price, the staple in the Modern Warfare universe, was made apparent in the first 30 seconds of the reveal trailer, and earlier today, Polygon reported that legend John Soap McTavish would be a returning character as well for this upcoming title. At the tail end of the trailer, you can also hear this audio line.
Who's your team?
Some old comrades.
And that seems to indicate more or even coming along the way, the old comrades being our beloved characters from the original trilogy. But with all that said, there seems to be a lot that would maybe indicate it's directly tied to the storyline of what happened over the original trilogy arc. The biggest ideas that I've heard are that this is going to be a sequel or a prequel. Solely speaking on dates, a sequel is possible chronologically, as we discussed yesterday in a video that one of the missions called Safe House actually takes place on October 20th of this year, 2019. So technically, in the past, once the game is actually even live and playable when it comes out on October 25th. But if you compare that to the other events in the Modern Warfare universe, Modern Warfare took place in 2011, while both Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 took place in 2016. So theoretically, it does fit. But is it a sequel? Well, the simple answer is no, and the mention of the soft reboot was the first real initial hint at that. But outside of that soft reboot mention, it really doesn't have much clarity. Or at least until you talk with some of the people close to the project and working on it, you'll find out that they're not related to the story arc that is the original Modern Warfare trilogy. Instead, this Modern Warfare game is its own thing. That said, it doesn't erase anything from the original trilogy that cooked up, it's just not associated with it. I'm sure the follow-up question though would be, well, does this set up an alternate universe, a multiverse theory now thing type of going on? To which, having discussed the game with the studio a bit with my time out in LA, I don't think it's the setup for a Modern Warfare multiverse, but instead, it's just what it's stated, a soft reboot, its own standalone thing. Probably the best examples I can give for this kind of thing to work out is by drawing parallels to a few television shows. To me, it's a sort of cross between the shows Black Mirror and American Horror Story in terms of how their story relates episode over episode, or in this case, game over game. For things like Black Mirror, each episode is a standalone cinematic event. There's no relation or higher arc that is being followed like much syndicated television, where there might be a more focal point every single episode, but the story and its universe progresses episode after episode at the very highest level. So maybe every so often you'll see a little bit of that story in the background progress in the final 5 to 10 minutes of the episode, but everything else of the episode may have been that doctor saving that guy's life, that cop chasing down the bad guy, whatever it may be. But you know what I mean, where there's that sort of universe story arc that progresses slower and develops more so over a season rather than episode over episode. That's where I'm kind of at with the Black Mirror similarities here, where it's a standalone and unrelated thing. Think of that part as the universe of the new Modern Warfare, standalone and unrelated, and the second aspect is that of the show, say American Horror Story, where in similar fashion, to my knowledge, the seasons and not just the episodes are standalone things. The episodes lead up to whatever that season's building up, but season over season isn't related to my knowledge. But there are actors that come back and reprise their roles or play different roles, but again, have no connection to their previous castings. Think of that part as the characters like Price and Soap. But when you put those together, you start to see what I mean. It's a standalone thing with no connection, but the characters do reprise their roles. They're not going to be undoing anything that happened to the original trilogy, and they're not really going to be altering anything of the history and the lore. Instead, they're just setting off on their own new story this time around. Ultimately, it's a Modern Warfare story. Not necessarily about Modern Warfare the trilogy, but the time in history and conflict. So when it comes down to it, it's neither a sequel to Modern Warfare 3 nor a prequel to any of the existing Modern Warfare trilogy games, but also, it's not something that is a reboot to wipe out that arc or extend into a multiverse. It's just meant to be a story about modern war and not connected to any other strings that may otherwise be attached, but at the same time, we get to experience that story with the characters who feel familiar already to us, mixed in with a new cast of characters who hopefully we can become connected to, as we have with these characters over the past decade. From a creative standpoint, there was some insight that was shared to shed some light on this at our briefing as well. They wanted to tell the story of a modern warfare and make it familiar and at home with new and returning Call of Duty fans, but in the same regard, they didn't want to pigeonhole themselves. The often counter-argument with the idea of, say, a Modern Warfare 4, when that rumor was swirling around for the months and months before the official reveal as of yesterday, was, well, where could they take it? They already wrapped up the storyline. Modern Warfare 3 already closed off all the loose ends or things like that. And truthfully, they did a pretty good job at it. There were, of course, some loose ends that could have been pulled at, like the fray on the edge of a string, that not many would think about, but could theoretically be built into something else, but nothing really hit home like a reboot could, or a soft reboot at that. I know that my personal theory was to go after the remaining operatives of, say, the Shadow Company, because after Modern Warfare 2, or after you end up taking out General Shepard, it's kind of like, well, the rest of them just went free, so that's cool. But you could have done something with that, but admittedly, it really wasn't something that probably would have stuck. It'd be a hard spin to make it something that lasts and is truly memorable. So there really weren't many avenues to go down. As well, sticking to the idea of a modern war, a prequel storyline wouldn't have worked out all that well either, because all of those timelines were already examined. Modern Warfare, the original, took place in 2011, which realistically isn't all that far off when you consider a prequel, but then that has to set up a universe, and the latest and most recent time period you'd probably find yourself playing in would be around the mid-2000s, or maybe even the early years of that decade, which is coming up on, surprisingly, 20 years ago at this point. So it really wouldn't be so much modern as it would be as if it was set in today's time, which we do see again based off the confirmation of that time frame of that mission safe house. It takes place this year. So if you were doing it solely to connect the universes, sure, you could get away with it, but it wouldn't be the best way that you could do it. At that point, you're really only playing for fan nostalgia with utilizing the characters, and you'd only have a few of them at that. Price and maybe a few others of the original would only be the ones that fit in viably to that storyline. So ultimately, from a creative standpoint, it just didn't work out as well as a soft reboot. And creatively, sometimes it's better to not try and force that. Again, there really wasn't all that many avenues, so I'm glad that they decided to do a soft reboot here with this on something that is unrelated, but utilizes some of the same characters that we've come to grow close to in the Call of Duty franchise. Now, as for where this goes in the future, well, your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea if this is going to be a standalone thing here at this one, or if they end up having another trilogy arc set up in which Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 happen again. Really, at that point, I have no idea how that would work at all, if it even could in the slightest, but we'll of course see in time. Right now, I'm more so focused on the here and now. Modern Warfare is coming. I'm super excited here for it from everything that we've seen so far. The trailer looks awesome. Some of the stuff that we got in our press briefing sounded awesome. And so therefore, I'm hopeful, and I do feel the need again to relay the fact that what we saw was the pure artistic vision of Infinity Ward. As for what the future holds for this game, who knows? Black Ops 4 had so much potential as well in the community's standpoint whenever that got released, or revealed officially at first, I should say. And so maybe this turns out to be another thing like that. I sure hope not, given everything that we've seen so far with the announcement of crossplay, free DLC, and of course a return to form with what looks to be some really cool customization stuff, and also just the entire era of the game being realistic and more focused on the modern conflict. I think that it has a ton of potential, but what we saw was the pure artistic vision of that with nothing from the business side interjected as of yet. So for the time being, again, I'm excited here for what this happens, what the future holds. We'll see in time, but wanted to clarify this here a little bit for you guys and let you know maybe where this stacked up in terms of your expectations here for it. Would you see some cool Easter eggs and crossovers? Maybe that comes in the campaign, but nothing seems to be directly tied or affiliated to anything from the original trilogy. So hopefully this cleared up the air a little bit here for you guys and maybe answered some questions you had on where this fits in the general standing of Call of Duty's franchise, and also maybe more in relation to the Modern Warfare universe that we already knew. So hopefully this helped. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you guys hoping for some crossover Easter eggs? Are you hoping for anything in particular? Whatever it may be, feel free to let me me your thoughts in the comments down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare and of course Black Ops 4 stuff coming up here in the very near future as well. But if you enjoy anything COD related, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to check my conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. Well, that's it now. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.